So this is Jeff Hoffer with Startup Celebrity, and I'm here with Ben Hu.
Yep.
Is it Ho?
It's Huh.
Ha.
Yep.
Okay. From Cheezburger Network, and probably world renowned as the most famous cat lover.
Total irony is I don't have a cat, so yeah.
Nice. So tell us more about Cheezburger Network. And
Sure. The Cheezburger Network is basically a network of humor sites whose content is generated by the users. So we run I Can Haz Cheezburger, FAILBlog, Memebase, and The Daily What are some of our most popular brands.
so what's the story behind I Can Haz Cheezburger? How did you start that?
Yeah, so actually I didn't start the site. I bought it from a couple in Hawaii, and they actually got their start by because people on 4chan were capturing photos of cats on Cat Day. And so when that left 4chan and started spreading to others, they started collecting these photos.
Well, that's great. Now, you did not start out as an entrepreneur. You went to Northwestern to study journalism, right?
That's right. I went to Medill, got a journalism degree, and it was a very exciting time, especially because print journalism, newspapers, were doing really, really well. But when I was graduating, I realized that the internet had taken over my life. I would get all my news off the web. So I thought, okay, this is a problem, right? If I'm not reading the newspapers and I'm reading the web, then most of the world is probably going to be like me in a few years. So I decided to go work for a .com than work for a newspaper.
So you worked at cars.com, but
Yeah.
something was not satisfying.
Well, and this was the first .com bubble. So imagine just throwing away massive amounts of money and not really knowing what you're creating and why anybody would pay anything for it. So I went from the frying pan to the fire. So I thought, well, if they can't figure it out, maybe I can. So I jumped ship and made my own startup.
And what was that?
It was a web analytics company. We're based out of Chicago. And we ended up folding it only 18 months later because we didn't have any customers because all the .coms were going out of business.
So you were at the time, you joined up in an incubator hosted by DePaul University.
Yeah, that's right. So it's tough to say it was even an incubator. They had a lot of spare office space, and they allowed a bunch of startups to squat in it. So I'm very thankful for the opportunity they gave us.
Do you still keep in touch with any of the folks you met there?
The person who's sleeping on my floor right now is one of the guys I was working for me at Radium, the company that I first started.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
yeah.
So it didn't work out with Radium. You found yourself in a lot of debt, and you decided to jump to Seattle.
Yeah. So I was basically working for a bunch of other entrepreneurs at the time, so I thought I had a chance when my company folded in 2001 to either go back and get a job doing something else, or go get an MBA. And I thought, I owe a lot of money. I don't want to necessarily go back and actually start getting into more debt by getting a degree. So I made a deal, which was I would only go work for other CEOs of entrepreneurial companies. So they had to be an entrepreneur. So my first job out of my little snafu was working for a friend of mine who was running an internet radio station. And he had been a successful entrepreneur, but he was starting again from zero. He didn't have a lot of money, so I was their general manager, meaning I was basically the second guy in charge, and I was making $8.50 an hour.
Nice.
Yeah, but I learned a lot.
Yeah. And then you took that to, you went to Install Shield after that.
Yeah, so Install Shield was another company whose founder was an entrepreneur. They'd been around for a number of years, and the CEO recruited me to come work in their marketing department. I've never worked in marketing before. But within a few years, I had risen through the ranks, and I was the director of e-commerce, and we were being sold to a company whose mission I didn't believe in, so I decided to go move to the West Coast. And so I was looking for jobs in the Bay Area, but I ended up working for another startup in Seattle.
What was that?
So it was a company called Intava, and they made touchscreen software. So they were like a hybrid software company, creative agency for touchscreen environments.
Okay, and so what was the pull to purchase I Can Haz Cheezburger for?
So I'd been there for about 2.5 years, and I thought, this is time for me to leave. And I was looking for a job in the Bay Area again. So this was, 7, 8 years after I'd left my first startup. And I thought, I think it's time for me to be my own boss again. And so I'd come across this guy who was running I Can Haz Cheezburger, and I was helping him out pro bono. It seemed like a great community. He had done a pretty good job, but it needed yet another kind of push to go to the next level. And I honestly didn't know if that's what I wanted to do. but the community and the job seemed pretty fun. So I thought, all right, I think it's been long enough. I'm going to be my own boss again.
Why do you think that site and that set of things resonates so well with people?
It's an untapped area of the market. You know, we've been led to believe that if you want to be a content creator, you have to go work for a TV network or create a show or be a stand-up comic or something like that. And it was basically a reflection of the fact that pop culture revolves around famous people. It's kind of funny that you do startup celebrities because it's a kind of a take on the idea of popular culture. But what you and I are doing here, we're talking about internet culture, which is a separate entity.
Yeah.
It's about the idea that we can express ourselves, that anybody can, with an iPhone 4 and a great microphone, can sit at South by Southwest and create their own content. It's self-expression at its best. And so what I wanted to do was create a site and create a company where we encourage people to express their sense of humor.
Were you always into comedy? Were you always a very funny guy?
No, I don't think anybody would really tell you that I was a funny guy. I think this job has helped me become more funny. So it's trial and error, and a lot of people don't even get that chance.
So were you more reserved as a kid growing up?
Yeah, I think I'm an only child, so I kind of socially a little bit awkward. I moved a lot, so I didn't have a lot of friends for I had great friends, but I couldn't, grow up with them. So it made me kind of observe the world in a slightly different light.
And do you think that's helped you where you are now?
I think it helps me to put myself in other people's shoes. I think I can be very empathetic because I've trained myself to become friendly with people very quickly.
Right. Yeah. So who's the one person that's had the most impact on your life, business or otherwise?
I don't think it's a person. I think it's a lot of little influences from a lot of different, very successful as well as not successful people. It's the idea that your parents instill in you that you should work hard for what you earn. It was my advisors from my first startup who told me this is what you shouldn't do, and then I went ahead and made those mistakes right away anyway. I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of really influential people in my life who gave me very good advice, and it was my fault I didn't take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you have to learn it on your own?
I am. I will make my own mistakes. Now I've gotten better at recovering from them, but I've made a lot of mistakes.
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten, whether you took it or not?
I think the best advice I've ever gotten is to follow your passion and not the money. And I think I made that mistake. I followed my passion, in my college days, and when the dot-com bubble came around, I wanted to make money, and I followed the money for a little bit, and that was a total mistake. And
so, on a lighter side, what's your go-to karaoke lineup?
I remember I went to this talk at Ignite, which is the series that's created by Bree Pettis and Brady Forrest. Brady works for O'Reilly. O'Reilly puts on some great conferences, and they sponsor this thing called Ignite, which is now world over. And all it is 5 minutes of slideshows. They auto-time the slides, and you just basically have to keep talking. Somebody went up and said, this is how you do real karaoke. And they said, pick a handful of songs and make sure it's not these. And then one of them was, what's the song that's popular because of Glee? Detroit, oh gosh.
The which one?
The song about Detroit.
Detroit Rock City?
Yes, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have one yet. I'm looking for one. I'll take suggestions of great karaoke songs. I need 3.
Okay, great. What's your favorite movie?
When Harry Met Sally. It's great dialogue. It's an excellent dialogue-based movie. So, witty banter, I suppose.
Nice. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you taking the time. Ben Hu, Cheezburger Network.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jeff. All right.